Greetings everyone, it's Brian again with another one of those little videos that I make. And this one today is going to be basically dedicated to my printed history as far as having comic anthology books come out over the years, when they came out, some stories behind it. Also, I'll be talking about what's available and what's sold out, and that's pretty much it. I'm working on getting an online store up, so whatever I have available for books is going to be made official. So let's start with my little printed history. The first book I was able to put out, and I'm just kind of winging it here, but this is the first book I was able to have come out. This is called Manchild, a celebration of 20 years of doodles, put out by one Matt Owens, who had a company called Volume 1. I'm not sure if he still has it. Let's see when this actually came out. This came out 2004. So the first time I was able to get any sort of anthology of my artwork out, it was the summer of 2004 apparently. And basically this is a lot of my earlier work. And what was going on was, at the time, you know, I just hadn't really figured out how I was going to be able to actually get some of my stuff in a book. And it just sort of kind of happened that I knew Matt, and he was all about doing it, which I was really, you know, happy about for sure. And life at this time was, you know, I had more, it was before my daughter was born, you know, like 6 years before she was born, maybe more, you know. So I had a lot more time to be indulgent and to draw a lot. You know, I just had a job that I worked at. When I wasn't at the job, I would just, you know, dedicate my time to drawing, you know, and just accumulating a bunch of stuff. And I guess the reason why I said a celebration of 20 years of doodles is because it's artwork that goes back 20 years, sort of outside of the 80s onward. All the stuff I did in the 80s when I was a punk rock letter of correspondence kind of guy. I don't think there's a lot of that stuff in here, but there's a huge variety of stuff. It was a thrill to have this out. I remember when it came out, Matt had sent all these boxes of this to me, and they were mine to do whatever I wanted with. So I tried to get rid of them all, and I did eventually. I have about like 6 or 7 of these left, and they're staying with me. So this is obviously out of print, and that's probably where it's gonna stay. Also, a lot of the times when these books would come out, people would want to buy pages, so I would sell pages of the book. But I'm proud of this. You know, I wouldn't say it's the greatest collection of stuff, but it's, you know, the first time I was able to do it, so I was really happy about it. You know, I waited a long time, you know, and I had to come up with a bunch of stuff since the 80s were over that would make it worth, you know, putting in something like this. So it was definitely, you know, I felt a great sense of accomplishment for sure, because I just never thought I would have anything ever come out. So that's the first one. Now the second book is called Manchild 2, clever title because it's the second book. It's called The Second Coming. This is the first time I did a book, I worked on books with Charles Cardello of Bifocal Media. And the way we did this was he actually, back when record labels were still around and magazines were still around, you could place ads, reserve ad space. And that's what Charles did with all the people he was connected with, because Bifocal Media started off initially as a record label, and Charles also filmed things and made videos of bands, and he put out all kinds of stuff. So this was still the time when there was still kind of a music industry, so that was how I think he was able to pay for this whole thing, you know, was ad space. As a collection of stuff, this is, to me, this is definitely better than the first book. It's more concise, and there's a lot of cool things in here, I think. And this is still available through Bifocal Media, and I have them too. So you can contact either of us, and there'll be some information below this posting in my YouTube channel. So if you want to get this, it's still available. I like this. This is a good good cross-pollination of all kinds of stories, and there's some personal stuff in here. I was still doing personal stuff, which I've kind of stopped doing as my life has gotten happier over the years, and also I want to protect people and stuff like that. So yeah, still available. Manchild 2, Second Coming. The next two of these books also came out courtesy of Charles Cardello and Bifocal Media, and this was a big one. This was Manchild 3. This also came with a Melvins CD, and it's the Making Love demos. Basically, a long time ago, when I met Buzz and Dale, they had recorded some stuff with Mount Luke and their first bass player, and they were like these weird, gnarly 4-track recordings of songs. Some of them ended up on Ozma, the second record, and some of them just vanished completely. And I always thought, even with the primitive sound quality, that this was a fucking great recording. And I talked to them, and they were nice enough to let me just put this in there. I mean, so you could obviously say that my connection with these guys, you know, has been nothing but help me over the years, and this is another example of that. I'd like to say that people bought this primarily for the Making Love demos, and they got this nice book that went with it. I'm sure it's the other way around in some cases, but they definitely helped this book. It was very successful, and it sold out pretty quickly. I think we made two pressings of it. I'm not sure, but anyway, this content-wise is kind of up there with the second book, and the CD, of course, is really good. This is also out of print. I think some of this stuff is online somewhere, probably on YouTube. It's worth checking out. Yeah, and it's also probably has, you can't see the cover. It's a pretty funny cover, which I can't figure out for now. But anyway, Manchild 3, sold out. Now the next book is Manchild 4. This is another book that came out on Bifocal Media, and this is me writing the coattails of a bunch of people. It's kind of a sarcastic joke about that, but you know, Melvins guys, the COC guys, at least the 3 of them. I think I drew Mac from Superchunk and Merge Records. Ryan Adams is in there because I used to play with him a long time ago. And then some of the Polbo guys, because Polbo asked me to play drums for him on their Shapes period, and that was a big thrill. So you know, it is what it is. A sarcastic joke. I don't know how it comes across. Content-wise, Manchild 4 is, it's okay. This is sold out anyway, so I can say whatever I want about it. It's the fucking biggest piece of shit ever. No, it's okay, and there's some pretty good stories in here for sure. There's like a Melvins tour diary. I had started working for the Melvins, and when I read it now, which I don't really try to read anything I've drawn or written, because it just kind of makes me wince, you know. So it's good for documenting a moment of time. But I would say that out of all the books I've done, Manchild 4 is not my favorite one. But what probably sold it, of course, was another Melvin CD that Buzz and Dale were nice enough to let me use. One part of the recording is the trio version of the band with Lori Black playing bass, and it's a recording of them playing the Crickets at, I think, Gilman Street in Berkeley, California. And this is after they had relocated to San Francisco and started over after their grunge origins of the state of Washington. This is really good. The other part of it is the lineup with Cody and Jared in it. I think it's a recording in Boston. It's really good sound quality. This obviously definitely helped sell this because it's sold out. The CD's great. I think content-wise, like I said, this is kind of my least favorite of the books because some of it's, the tour diary especially, is kind of chip on my shoulder kind of stuff, and you know, which is okay, I guess. I just don't need to look back and be reminded on stuff like that. Anyway, so the next book was Manchild 5. This is like an oral history of like me basically moving to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is what I did. The story behind that basically was I was a punk rock letter writer in the early 80s. That's how I met people. That's how I wrote stuff for people, drew stuff for people. That's how I got in touch with people. That's what you had to do because, you know, there was no internet or anything like that. One of the things I always say that always gets glossed over about those times, you know, so long ago, is that if you wanted to be involved in this stuff, you really just had to pick up a pen and get some paper and write to people, because there was no other way to communicate with people other than excuse me, calling them on the phone and stuff like that. So I was very taken with that idea. But then I just kind of noticed that a lot of stuff that was coming out of Raleigh, North Carolina was stuff I really liked. There were bands like No Labels and let's see who else, Bloodmobile. There was a great band called Stillborn Christians, like a trio that were really phenomenal, like a Gang of Four and Minutemen for Raleigh sort of thing. Really smart and good. And of course, Corrosion of Conformity. No Labels and Corrosion of Conformity shared band members, and at the time, No Labels were the more, I guess, notable band. But they only lasted like a year. Then after they split up, the other guys just kept going with COC. COC's first album, Eye for an Eye, was an amazing album at the time. There was some energy to it that those three guys playing the instruments had that was unique to them, a very special chemistry. So I was quite taken with them and their area, and I just wrote letters like I usually did to some of the people. I wrote to Woody, I wrote to Ricky Hicks from No Labels. I was just a spazzy, geeky kid that was a huge fan of this music, you know, and I just wanted to get to know some of the people involved in it. And that led to a friendship that I've had with some of these guys that has lasted to this day, mostly in terms of I'm still friends with Mike and stuff like that. But this was sort of like my attempt of doing like a punk rock oral history kind of book, you know, like especially now these days everybody has, you know, a book like this, and I'm no exception. So this was my version of that book. I named it after a COC lyric from the song Kiss of Death off of Animosity. Rabid pack with sirens howling. And I interviewed like 40, maybe 50 people that lived around here, mostly, about basically what happened in Raleigh and North Carolina, you know, basically during the 80s. And it kind of cuts off toward the end of the 80s, more or less. And that's a whole other book for somebody else to do. But it came out really well. I still like it. It was like a 5 or 6 year endeavor to slowly put it together. Charles from Bifocal Media was game to lay it out. He laid everything out. I had a lot of help from other people that donated pictures. I had pictures of my own, flyers, things like that. There's artwork about some of these stories. There's stories in here about, you know, the bands that came out from around here. And I even talked about, there was a band called Honor Roll from Richmond, Virginia, who might as well have lived in Raleigh because they played Raleigh so much. It's like 3 hours away. But yeah, this book really came out, I think, really good. I still like it, and it's still available through Bifocal Media, and I'll have some of these for sale on the online store once that gets going. Now, there's a bittersweet story to this book, and that's the fact that I had a chance to have a CD get included in this, and it would have had these really rare pivotal recordings of bands from back then, and it would have included Stillborn Christians, No Labels, CFC, if I could find something that was worth putting out, like a live thing or whatever, and Honor Roll. I think and it would have been a great CD, and I just got chickened. I froze. I decided not to do it, and I really regret that, because if that was in here, that would have been a very complete. I mean, it's just my take on what was going on. Anybody else could write a book about these times, whatever, but it would have been so cool to have had that CD in there, and I regret that to this day. But anyway, this is the 5th book, the 3rd book that Charles did on my behalf, and I mean, it's not like there's artwork in here, but it's, like I said, it's mainly interviews, oral history stuff, and there are some cartoons along the way telling the story. Yeah, so in some ways, this is one of my favorite things, and it's still available. It's we didn't sell this out the way we did the Melvin stuff, but this is really good, I think. The cover is basically this weird. His hand looks really weird. Sorry, artist types. I was in a hurry. Anyway, this is the original COC not getting along at a show they played in, I believe, Charlottesville or somewhere in the state of Virginia, where they just had a really bad show, and Mike threw his bass in the air like 50 feet and smashed it, and it was very strange. That was 1985. Anyway, that's what this is based on. So anyway, Manchild 5, living in the 80s with corrosion of conformity, punk rock history, Raleigh, North Carolina. The sort of name is Rabid Pack with Sirens Howling. Rabid Pack with Sirens Howling. Okay, so the next book, well, this is from a different publisher. Charles was, I think by the time that book came out, the 5th one, there was stuff going on in the world. I know that the distribution company that Charles worked with went under, and not to name names or whatever, but everybody involved in that, including myself, lost a shitload of money, just evaporated because they just went bankrupt. So whatever money that was made from, I think this book, maybe the last one, I think this book, just went up in flames. That was very demoralizing. So Charles wasn't really interested in doing another book, I think. Plus at that time, I think, the times were changing. There were getting ads for record labels, for magazines, all that stuff was evaporating and changing. That stuff was whatever. So Charles didn't want to do another book, and I can't blame him, and he already had helped me so much, So the story afterwards was I still had stuff that I was kind of cranking out. It was kind of getting less, though, because my daughter Willow was born, and I called this book Bye Bye Punk Rock, Hello Adulthood, Manchild number 6. And it was put out by To Live a Lie Records, from the gentleman that lived here in town. He was all about doing the book, and right at the second, for whatever reason, even though I've known his name for ages, I forgot his name, and that's really, really lame. So, to save the embarrassment of me not remembering his name, I'm going to look up the record label and get his name so I don't seem like such a complete idiot. To Level Eye Records. And he's been doing this for a long time. He kind of does a lot of hardcore punk rock power violence. I think that's what it's called, that kind of stuff. Oh God, it's so bad that I forgot his name. He's gonna kill me. But anyway, he wanted to do a book. He liked me. He liked some of the music stuff, I guess, I was a part of. I want to say Matt. I could be wrong. Oh God, please don't kill me. He's a really nice guy. He wanted to do a book, so I gave him a bunch of stuff. And this is more artwork, of course, and then there's some interviews I did with some various people. like Stephen Edgerton from The Descendants of All, and Tannen Penland from Loincloth, and Kenny Roby, and Scott Radinsky, my old friend from California. It came out good. He did a really good job laying it out, and then I think he realized that he was going to be stuck with his book. And he has a record label, aimed at some harsh music, and I'm not really sure if that audience was going to be super gung-ho about reading some older guy with a beard talking about whatever he's talking about. So I think he made the minimal amount of books, and I bought them from him over the years and given them away, sold them or whatever. I mean, it was very nice, that he did it. Will Butler. Sorry, Will Butler. But Will took a chance and did it, and I'm glad he did it. I'm not sure how it worked out for him, but this is readily available, probably from him at Talivalai Records, their website, or through me, through the online store. I think it's a good little book. It's kind of like half a book, but I still think it's good. It's definitely better than the Manchild 4. So I think what was going on here was, times were changing. I had sort of exhausted all the subject matter of whatever it was I was doing before. There's a lot of punk rock looking back kind of memories, that kind of thing, and I really played that out. And then at the time, I wasn't super keen on documenting my life as much anymore. Things were kind of hairy at this point anyway, so I kind of stayed away from that kind of stuff, and I've kind of stayed away from that stuff to this very day. And this was, let's see, what year did this come out? 2012, so it's like 10 years old. So this is the 6th book, and it's still available. Now, I did a couple of short runs on some other short Manchild books, but they were like, I made 100 copies of a few issues, and I took those on tour with the Melvins when I worked for them, and I got rid of them all there. I didn't even bother looking for them. The newest thing I've done is the last thing, which is Self Empunishment. I felt very fortunate to be able to meet Mark Givens from Pelicanesis. That's his company. He liked the idea of the book, which was basically me interviewing all these people, talking about their histories, and also about the term self-impunishment means, I'm living this book. It's like I haven't had a real job in 12 years now, probably. Up until 3 years ago, I worked for the Melvins. Between having that opportunity to do that and freelancing, I was able to not have a job, which is both a great freeing thing and a really terrifying thing. When you've gone on so long with life that this is the path you've taken and you can't really turn back. The book's a lot about people trying to be self-employed and self-motivated outside of getting a regular job. Although there are a few people in here that have regular jobs but still do a lot of stuff outside of that, working for themselves. So I interviewed all kinds of people, everybody in here from, of course, the Melvins guys to Michelle from Voivod, Keith Morris is in here, Chris Sherry, my friend Chris Sherry, Tyler Wolf, Ryan Case, my wife, Bob Burt, Monty Colvin from the Galactic Cowboys. He's definitely a self-motivated artist, musician type, that kind of stuff. This came out a couple of years ago, right when the pandemic started, about towards the end of the 2020. I still haven't really done a whole lot of promotion for this. I just, but it's still available, still in print. I have these. I'll send a link to Pelicanesis if people want it. The reaction I got from this was across the board positive, which doesn't mean that there was millions of people, like, oh my God, New York Times bestseller, but people generally liked it. And it's the way I look at these kind of things is, if I was outside of doing this and trying to lay it out and organize it, would I like this if I just picked this up? And the answer was yes, so this is my last effort, and it's still available through Pelicanesis, and also I'll have some too on my online store. So that's it. That's pretty much where I'm at right now as far as printed books. 3 or 4 of them are sold out. The rest of them still are available. Like I said, this one's available. Self Empunishment. Manchild 6 is still available. Manchild 5 is still available. And Manchild 2 is still available. So you can drop me a line at reluctantking@hotmail.com. There'll probably be another way of contacting me stuck in at the end of this. I just want to say thanks for, if you're actually watching this, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And if you need anything else from me, just drop me a line. And that's about it. All right. Have a good day. Thank you very much.